Some amazing moments to look back at in Smite 1 esports, and we're already starting to write the story of Smite 2 esports, and we're back in North America of the Smite 2 Last Chance qualifier of the Smite 2 Founder Series. We had some great games to start off the day in EMEA and Gormizer. I think we've got a good slate of action here to finish off the day on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to see these. Again, this is where, the pressure starts to mount up.
Yep.
We had already mentioned it last week, right? Where losses had a lot more weight to them. Even if it was double elim for NA, it still mattered, right? Getting knocked down to the bottom, only having like one life left in the tournament really does start to weigh on your shoulders, and now it's maybe even more important. Your wins
Yep.
mean you get to go forward. For some of you, a win, means that it's you're clear, you're done, you're in playoffs, and a loss in some of these still isn't the end of the world.
No,
But
sure isn't.
the ideal world is win one of the two potential sets you might find yourself into, move forward to playoffs, start worrying about some of those other teams.
That's right. Take a breather. What do we have in North America? That's the big question. We'll let you know right here around the corner. We are going to start off our day with the top right-hand side of your screen there. This is the Group A matchup
Yep.
of Garf's Goblins versus Gotei 5. So the winner of this one moves on to the playoffs. The loser will move on to play Content Team 6, where the loser heads home, and the winner moves on to the playoffs, as Gormizer was just describing. And then the second matchup of the day is going to be over in Group B. That's Alec Hate Club versus the loser of Yummers versus Father's Day. So we're kind of doing the opposite in this one. The first matchup is a qualifier, but not an eliminator. And then the second match that we'll watch today is a qualifier and also an elimination match. And then we'll have some more North American games for you tomorrow, starting at the same time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or so, for the second matchup of the day. So the two on the top right of your screen are what we're looking for here today. And Gormizer, first and foremost, it's Garf's Goblins versus Gotei 5. When I look back at this Garf's Goblins team, admittedly for me, it's some of the early like Swiss stage, qualifier stage matches from this team.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten to watch too much of them over the last few weeks, but I do remember there being some moments with this team and this roster where I'm like, they could be a team. We got the favorites. They're already qualified. They're already in playoffs. 3-0 in the bracket. But this is a team I remember being really excited to watch build up, and we'll talk more about them and exactly where they lay in the bracket, which of course very important over here in North America. So this is what I was just describing to you a moment ago in some of the matches that we're going to be watching. Group A, it's Garf's Goblins versus Gotei 5. Winner moves on. Loser will play a matchup. Maybe tomorrow we're going to show that one. And then we're going to do the opposite for Group B, where Yummers has actually already beaten Father's Day. So Yummers moves on to the playoffs. Father's Day versus Alec Hate Club. That'll be the second match that we watch here today. And that one, a little extra weight behind it, Gore, than the first one we're going to watch today. That one between Father's Day and Alec Hate Club sends you on or home, depending on how it pans out.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for these two. I think there's a lot of interesting matchups just in A in general, but this one's more important, I think, for Garf's Goblins, because like you said, as a team, this is a squad that really did seem like they were on the cusp of figuring it out, right? We talked about them a lot.
Yeah,
I want to say every single week of Swiss, despite the fact that there were definitely some maybe, let's say, flashier teams, more successful all-rounders teams that we got to see throughout Swiss. This was always one of those ones that had that potential to qualify straight up to the playoffs. And coming in as one of the top seeds in this portion of it, right? When you're in the last chance qualifier and you are very, very heavily favored as some of these others, and with a lot of flavor in the play style. I do really think the Garf's Goblins is a squad that has just been a treat to watch, and I assume that now with even more gods available, it's going to continue to be a treat to watch.
Winning does have a certain flavor to it. It tends to be a good flavor, and you're going to hope to have a good taste in your mouth at the end of the day here today. Picks and bans also can set that stage, set the table, and season some of those dishes. So Garf's Goblins find themselves in the first pick slot. Gotei number 5 in slot number 2. And Gore, we've had a really unique opportunity here in Smite 2, where in the early days, in the early goings, there were, I don't know what, the 20 or so gods that maybe started in the game at the time. And over the last couple of months, as we've been doing Smite 2 esports, new gods have been getting added into Smite 2 all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's a game that when you think back to Smite 1 esports, what, gods came out 3 or 4 times a year, and that would shake up the meta a little bit. It's such a unique time for us where it feels like every week, every other week, there's a new sprinkling of gods that really changes the dynamic of what we're watching. And a couple weeks ago, for me, it was the Baron, where I had casted the weekend prior, and then suddenly Baron gets added, and now I'm watching him get banned out pretty consistently. And Gore, that trend seems to continue here, and it'll leave the Sobek open for first pick.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for that reason. I got to talk to some of the players, like, just about the idea of having to play during an alpha, and like the general, it's so weird because the general consensus was it just kind of depended on how busy you were, right, that week, whether or not you were happy with the amount of changes or not. Because there were sometimes, like, if you're stacked, morning to night with too much to do, you can't really get into the ranked queues or into scrims. Suddenly, maybe you're not as prepared on the new god, maybe an item change or a build change or things like that changes to whether it's int scaling or string scaling for certain gods, things like that. Like, all of a sudden that changes so much, and it could have happened 3 days before you had to play. If you didn't have the time to grind, maybe that's too big a deal, or that's a big deal, and you'll suffer for it. On the other side of it, and this specifically comes up because of Garf's Goblins, maybe a lot of you, specifically I'll say Sunprod, grind the hell out of ranked all the time. And so you are in this position where you have, the newest updates, some of the hottest builds, the gods, what's going to be successful for you and your squad, and how to maybe find that success and extend it even further beyond. So I really do look at Garf's Goblins and a little bit towards Gotei 5, right? You need to know whatever they've got going behind the scenes. But I'm curious, like, with all these, changes, right, where Zeus is suddenly necessary to ban Sobek, who has an execute, but is it really that devastating? Do you have to ban him? Is he first pick? Like, some things you got to learn the hard way in competition. Is it worth letting Fenrir through? Like, a lot of questions that are going to get answered in this game, and I'm wondering if Garf's Goblins are going to come out ahead because of it, because I see Fenrir Yemoja as the top 2. I'll be honest, I'm a little scared for anybody that faces that.
Agreed. If I'm looking at those 2 picks, not only in
the warring of
Smite
gods
1,
has endangered these
scary in
lands.
their own right, but what we've seen is they've now transferred over here to Smite 2, and the success that they've found, difficult to lock down, but also a great setup for the rest of your team. Setup's what you need when you got a Kukan on your squad. Send that Spirit of the 9 wins straight down Main Street. More targets locked down equal more kills. That's a winning formula. Nuwa plus on her, so Gore some burst damage to finalize the draft here for Garf's Goblins. I'm a big Nuwa fan. I know, maybe a
polarizing choice.
Polarizing choice. I'm a big Nuwa fan. Easy for me to press my ult and do some damage, and that's about all I need here in Smite. And then on her, a pretty mechanically intensive god, in the sense that when you see a player who just gets that kit flowing properly, very difficult to kill that ADC.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that has shifted, and you can kind of see this in the picks and bans, like Kern and on her instead of like the Jing Wei, which was so highly coveted for a long time. And a lot of that is the shift in builds, a lot of pin builds coming out for these carries lately, dealing with, the tankiness of Yemoja, the tankiness of, now this Amaterasu that's been locked in. And so on her, I feel like has been able to start taking some of the sunshine and the limelight, because he's really good at that exact thing. He's got good CC, like you said, when the kit is all firing. Impale can be used aggressively and defensively. Your Sands, right, can be used aggressively and defensively. The Leap can be used aggressively and defensively. There's so much that favors you on both sides of the field that it really does feel like a pick that can be an all-rounder.
Garf's Goblins, Gotei 5 should be a good one. Game number 1 as picks and bans are locked in, kicking off right now. Remember, we're in a best of 3 here, and this matchup sends the winning team at the end of this best of 3 onto playoffs. Losing team will go up against Content Team 6 for one more chance at playoffs, and then the loser of that one headed home. Dolson, Gore, and Duck, our best pal, working through this matchup here with us, Gore. What are some things you're looking out for in the early portion of this game? My eyes always go to the Loki, the jungle matchup. We have seen Loki v Fenrir plenty of times. Is that the obvious choice?
I think so. There's a lot really in the jungle in general. Like, I feel like Sunprod as a Loki and realistically a Fenrir on the other side, like, you can both get decently active early on. Loki, in the ideal world, you're probably going to be getting either a level 2 gank or wait until your ult's available, right? Like there's a I can come in really early on, and you have that new Wah. I feel like new Wah in the first couple of levels can do enough damage that maybe you can get the ball rolling. Fenrir can kind of carry a little bit of that weight by himself, so even if it's just the tornado that's backing up, a good brutalize after a leap could really seal the deal. So the jungles, in specifically mid, I think have a good chance. The solo lane matchup doesn't really seem like it's going to be one that I would spend too much time on if I was a jungler in this one. But maybe the duo lane as well, and this one might go more for the Fenrir than the Loki, but it kind of depends. I feel like Yemoja and Kern, with their clear, very aggressive, very good at just wiping the field when it comes to minion waves. But you do have a warrior and an on-her, and you can have that kind of response if you step out of place.
Man, we haven't talked about Joshi much. I mean, this is a player we have seen play competitively for years. If this is the same Joshi that I'm used to watching from SMITE #1, wasn't a first blood over in duo lane, could be over here in mid, and it is a first blood in duo lane. As Kill Cam Kenny works with Drunk Diplomat, maybe best duo name lane pairing, best duo lane name pairing, there we go, that I've seen. And Gore, the two of them combined for a first blood.
I feel like duo name lane pairing works too, right? Like just the Kill Cam Kenny, Drunk Diplomat, and like you said, that's the 1-2 punch, and that's the other side. I feel like the lane pressure minion-wise should go to Kern Yemoja. The lane pressure, damage-wise, definitely goes to Odin on her. There is no doubt in my mind. Some of the CC that I think that a Kern and a Yemoja could bring can definitely change, I think, a little bit of the pacing up early on. But when Odin can stun you, jump in, burst damage with the shield, and then before you know it, you've been impaled against a wall, auto, you're dead. That's the duo smackdown that you're going to get from Garf's Goblins, and that's more or less what I expect. Will not be surprised if we get some sort of retaliation, right? I wouldn't be upset if Fenrir tries to go over there, get a little bit of pressure. Maybe the Fenrir goes to mid to get that pressure, but you need to find something to get the kills rolling and maybe to stabilize. Because if I look up at the minimap and I see the Yemoja and the Kern locked under tower because they're just like, they can't face the On-Her and the Odin, we're going to start to see the experience lean pretty heavy towards the left side of the screen.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you got the ability to teleport over if the Amaterasu ends up getting a little lane pressure. It's an opportunity for gank and for pressure, for sure, if you're Gotei 5, but not out of control, not just yet. And Gore, I'm glad you bring up the general pressure battle, because should be an opportunity for Moods in Joshi to stabilize here, grab a stun. However, the teleport that I'm talking about has brought a gank over to the left side of the map, a stun, and then follow-up damage, and goodness, it gets worse. But a return gank from Fenrir. Nets a little bit of damage, but not a second kill, and it's Garf's Goblins on the board yet again. And both junglers trying to kind of wrap around the backside, but only one does so successfully.
I will tell you, nothing feels worse as a jungler than being the second one to gank, right? Especially, well, specifically when the other jungler finds success. when the Loki comes over, gets the kill, gets the damage, and has such a clean setup. And then you walk to the other side, Fenrir just kind of has to lamely walk in the lane, you know, tail tucked between his legs. Not really a lot you can do because nobody's super low. Sun Prod's already out of here, and the other two are staying just as pressurized against the lane, against the tower line as they were before. Like, they don't care that you're there. It just doesn't feel great when you're the jungler in that circumstance. There's nothing you can do, especially because that was pre-level 5. Now we get to enter a fun zone, though. Fenrir can pick people up. Couple pairs of beads on the other side for Garf's Goblins and the Loki and the On-Her. But really, I wouldn't mind trying to shut down Kill Cam Kenny. I feel like that's not a bad target for you. I mean, going for the Nuwa as well, you might force the ult, you might be able to wait it out until right after it lands, but like, no matter what, I think you've got some decent options that don't have that safety. Admittedly, the Purification Talisman does cause some trouble for you over in the left lane, but getting anything done or trying to get your teams to set something up for you, it could be the big turnaround that the team really needs, is for this Fenrir to just be the setup guy.
Relics play an important role in what just happened on your screen there. Moods with the Phantom Shell. Pops it after a ring of spears found their way in. And Gore, I'm glad we get it on the screen here. And looking at all the relics, I'm looking at Nuwa, who's got Blink, which admittedly surprises me a little bit, only because I'm not, you know, the Blink Anubis sometimes happens. The Blink Giannis every once in a while we would see. I guess Blink Nuwa's in that same category, and you mentioned the ultimate to get up and away. But that's now at a premium, because that is your only form of escape since you don't have the beats. However, you do have the Blink, so maybe I'm wrong already. You got double escape now if you're going to be using that Blink defensively.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the most, I guess, I don't even know, one-sided, two-sided, doesn't really sound that right. I can't figure out the word off the top of my head, where it works so well for you when it's there. But the minute that it's gone, like for the next 3 minutes, you're just kind of hoping that you don't need it, that you don't have a reason for it. Of course, if your team gets super far ahead, you've already got 2 kills, maybe you're feeling pretty good about it. Then the good news is that you can continue to get super far ahead. You can actually use it aggressively. I mean, I will say if you have a 5,000 gold lead, you know, your Odin, your Loki, your Sobek jump in. If you're Nuwa, sure, blink forward, spawn some minions, detonate them, like have some fun with it. But you definitely, like, you personally need to be 5,000 gold ahead, not the team. Like, you've got to have such a crazy lead that you know you're not going to get punished for it. Otherwise, it really does kind of feel like this necessary, hey, I've got an ult that can help me dodge Fenrir, and I've got something that can help me get out of dodge if Ama or a Cuckoo ult or Yamoja, like, I can go through walls, I can, you know, not have to worry about the Phantom Shell. You've got the safety. You just need to make sure that it's there, and so for the next 2 minutes now, since I burned 60 seconds off the clock, would not be surprised if this new Nuwa's primary focus is just survive for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's my fallacy. When I see the blink, I'm just assuming it's aggressive all the time. And so I'm like, man, now you don't have that survivability. And then, of course, I come to the realization that you can also go backwards and away if you want. Maybe that's what you need, a little extra mobility on a god that doesn't have much. That's Dash out of Amaterasu. Dazzling offensive as well. Could we see enough damage? Should be from Lord Garfield. Sure is. Pretty simple gank there from Sunprod Gore right over to the solo lane. And especially that poor dash timing. That's a bit unlucky for Sui's there. Dashes out, and fortunately there's a jungler right behind.
Speaking of jungler right behind, I mean, look at Fenrir right now. He really wants something. The leap's going to be down for the on-her. If you can close the gap, this is a good target.
Could be a turn kill, and it is for Gotei 5. And it's just a one and done, but gotta have it. Because, Gore, we've seen these games in SMITE 2 and some of the early portions. Now that we're in the later portions, maybe a little bit different, but some of the early portions of these weeks where even just a couple of kills early in the game are enough to snowball things. And Garf's Goblins felt like they were right around the corner from that. Sunprod has started to move that pressure across the map. So one kill for Gotei 5 does not a lead or even getting back to even make. However, in a mental way, it does slow down some of that momentum that was starting to build up.
Yeah, that's a huge deal just on its own. I feel like, and we've kind of seen this discussion, you had mentioned it earlier, these teleporters on the right, the ability to get back into lane so quickly, like there are a lot of things that can really enable a jungler and realistically a team that gets ahead in general can just kind of farm faster. You can make better rotations. It feels like getting just one kill, even just to slow down the other squad, creates breathing room, right? You can take a deep breath. Hey, you know what? If they had gotten another kill unanswered, probably talking about a Gold Fury right now instead, but they're not doing it. You're not having to worry about the Pyromancer in a few minutes because you're still in a good spot to contest. You haven't really lost. And last week, I want to say, there were several games we had early on where 5-6 minutes in, you would be watching what felt like the end of the game because they're already 4,000 up. Whereas here, I mean, you're getting trades, right? Fenrir uses his ult, but it goes 1 for 1. And the new Nuwa's going to be under a lot more pressure, especially with like a Yamoja and an Ama in the game. All it takes is some good rotations, and you can really find and capitalize little moments like that.
Could we see a scrap around the Gold Fury? That's now the question. Moods rotates in. A last chance steal, gonna be a miracle here, but it's a bit slow for Garf's Goblins. And the Gold Fury taken by Gotei 5! And it looks like a kill as well in the back. This is brutal for Garf's Goblins. You start it, you don't finish it, and you lose your solo laner. In a forgettable moment for Garf's Goblins, Gore, that lead is now completely gone after hanging in the balance just a moment ago.
Yeah, that's the one thing we've seen, and really this discussion, go back to, what, weeks 1, 2, 3, when we shifted to the 24/7 for the alpha, and you're really talking a lot about Sunder because it was so good, so helpful, and still existed here, but that capability of secure hasn't quite been as good to sail. Sunprod, maybe a little too deep. Did get the blue, I guess there's that consolation, but like does not feel great after losing the Gold Fury to then also die. But I was gonna say secure was a in abundance those first few weeks, and even now, like using it, I don't know, personally it hasn't felt as easily securable as we saw in the past. And I feel like that's something you gotta be worried about if there's a cuckoo in the zone, or really if you're just not putting up a huge zone. It felt like Garf's Goblins really focused on the Fury itself, not so much about the area surrounding it. And the area surrounding it's very important because the other team can use it too.
Well, that's what the Moja can do. Throw up those water walls, funnel everyone in, give yourself a chance on the steal. Garf's Goblins, you know, now you're in an awkward spot where I would say may try to slow things down, but maybe that's the opposite of what you want, where the last couple skirmishes in this game have gone against you. Maybe it's time to pick back up and get things going once again. Nothing to fight over, though. Maybe solo lane opportunity. Stealth goes Sunprod. There's damage out of mid as well. Stun. You're throwing everything at the wall. Gotta get the kill. Garf's Goblins and Lord Garfield indeed do. That's a get-right kill there, and an important one, especially for Sunprod to participate, because while it was a slower start for the Fenrir, now starting to pick up some pace here, Gore. Killing spree for the Gotei 5 jungler. And that battle is going to be a lot of fun to watch here over the next few minutes.
Yeah, it becomes this interesting balance as the game goes on. I feel like right now is where, you know, the Fenrir probably just wins a lot of these engagements. In terms of team fight, I feel like he's just going to get a little bit more done. Late game, Loki is just a menace, but like Fenrir has a lot of capabilities right now to go and force people to feel uncomfortable. In that moment, right, ult for ult trades, those are really, really big and really, really helpful. And we've already seen, but now getting hands-on, I mean, this is a good spot to try and get your team a little bit of a bigger lead. If you can find some of these kills, it changes the pace of the late game, where Loki's going to be a little bit stronger, where the new WA damage is going to be crazy, where Sobek is going to be bringing an execute to a lot of these team fights, and that's going to be something you have to be worried about. It definitely does give me a little bit more hope for Gotei 5 to see what they can do to try and press forward.
I'm keeping my eyes on Pyromancer and that next Fury to spawn. I wonder if it puts some caution in the minds of Garf's Goblins here. A bit worried. Now maybe you can adjust. You're saying, all right, gotta watch out for this Umoja, see where she is on the map. Clearly that's not what just happened, but that looked insane for a moment there. But now you're a bit more focused on Umoja, what she can do, funneling pressure over towards that Fury. A little bit of ward coverage for Garf's Goblins on the backside. So you're gonna know where Gotei 5 are if they're lurking around the other end. Seen just a little bit of damage out of mid-war. Have not seen much focus at all between Dest and FT Sword. But that's another good thing to talk about, especially when you start to rotate towards these objectives. Dest has good, I'm damaging everyone no matter what type abilities. FT Sword, you've got one of the best secures in the game. So you're talking about second-guessing a Fury. Might have to be Garf's Goblins. Gonna be Gotei 5 on the pickup, though. Slow rotation, if any, in from Garf's Goblins.
Yeah.
Around the backside is Killcam Kenny. Up front is Sunprod. Fury's low, and the confirm goes to Gotei 5. Use that Spirit of the Nine Winds, but not to 2v5 in the fight. Garf's Goblins disjointed here. Gotei 5 just chiseling away at the health bars of Garf's Goblins to the point where now you can't really do anything. This is just awkward. A flick back from Lord Garfield. Maybe saves his mid laner, but puts himself to death. Can Drunk Diplomat get anything done? No. and in fact has maybe put himself in danger now. This has all gone sideways for Garf's Goblins. A stun underneath the tower, and you need this Fenrir to leap away, and you've got it done. Devastating turnaround for Garf's Goblins, and 1 kill from Sunprod might be the difference maker.
Honestly, if you can continue this chase, this might actually be the big change. I was going to say, Mood's dying for all that. You don't really care. Moods did exactly what a support needs to do. You held the tower, you let everybody march forward. It was glorious. Unfortunately, losing Joshi at the end does mean like a little red mark, right? I guess at the totality of it. You get a B+ instead of an A. Realistically, that is such a good fight from Gotei 5. And you had called it while it was happening, but disjointed is the perfect word for Garf's Goblins there. I mean, you have Sunprod going in. Your right tower is very little help, if any. And then there's a fight. You already can't really out-secure them, because again, they have a Cuckoo who has a crazy ult. And so you're going in with a little bit of hope, and you know, you never say never. You might as well try when you can. But then you find yourself in an awkward spot overall. You put yourself in a spot where the fight's not going to go your way if you don't get this steal. And so suddenly, Lord Garfield has to come in and go for a save. But Sunprod's low enough health that you can't really fight that much. Now Lord Garfield's in a bad spot and is going to get taken down. That's a huge kill to be able to pick up. But then it's just disjointed. It's people jumping in one after the other. A little bit of low health bar gets tagged out. It was never a numbers favor game for Garf's Goblin. They were always behind. They were always suffering a little bit. And when a team's able to dive that heavily, the only punishment being the duo lane, they don't feel that bad.
There's the burst damage. I love this build from New Odds. Classic. Get the stack going. Burst from the Soul Gem. Ob Shard for a little extra, %10. Death's starting to get there, and that's the name of the game here for these types of builds. Slow things down, build them up, and eventually, you know, the early portion of the game, the new wall is not doing much. Later in the game, I don't know, you're starting to third health, half health some of these carries, and it just gives your team an automatic advantage in the fights. But again, that's where you got to worry about when you use it. You're going to get dove on. Constant math problem going on in the brain of Des. This one, real close score, 17.5 minutes. Darn near tied. And a lot of the pressure has got to fall on the Fenrir for Gotei 5 and FT Sword out of the mid lane. Both have been safe and sound, farmed things up quite nicely. Both a slight lead over their lane opponent. And on the flip side of things, duo lane for Garf's Goblins starting to carry a bit more weight for this team. You're gonna have to make them a centerpiece of your team fights.
Yeah, I really do think that if you are, I mean, and they were kind of, I want to say a centerpiece going into this already, the crucial amount of control they had in lane. Really, it's all been brought to the wire because of this Fenrir. The fights around the Fury like have left me wanting, so maybe objective play really needs to change, but I do anticipate this Odin probably being one of the bigger changes for this team fight in general, and that's kind of why there are 3 Phantom Shells on the other side. They know that it is this Odin who can be such a game changer for them, especially in combination with a Loki and an Honor. That's the spot. So I appreciate Gotei 5 falling back. You also have to admire, I think, Moods and Joshi. I don't know that they are going to be the driving force. I think those two are like the CCers, the big team fight ultimates that are going to enable, you know, FT Sword and Bruise to do a little more.
Drunk Diplomat, man, not winning that fight. Amaterasu brutal to deal with later in the game. Phantom Shell from Kill Cam Kenny. Just backs away. Oh no, Lord Garfield rooted, jumped on. Plenty of cleave coming out. What can Sui's do here? Talisman of Purification is perfect to slow down that dazzling offensive. Then the Impale sends Amaterasu to the wrong side of this fight, and Bruise as well. Left alone, this 3-man death ball on the left side of the fight just does so well for Garf's Goblins, and it's only one traded back, or the Loki alone with Gotei 5. And Garf's Goblins group up as 3 and are able to just slowly pick apart Gotei 5.
Realistically, that's going to be the downside. I guess trying to make something happen, maybe. I was going to say, if you could get Drunk Diplomat, it's a different conversation, but that goes back to what we were saying in Picks and Bans, where Onher's real good at getting out in the right circumstances. Getting picked apart in moments like that, and specifically It feels like this Ama, maybe we'll have to hold that thought as Gold Fury started up, and you do have Cuckoo. Ult's coming back up soon. Like, this could be a good moment for Gotei 5 to kind of make up for that fight.
Ultimate is not there yet, but yeah, with the pacing of this Fury, it may just be there.
It's so slow.
As it gets taken down, this is not quick at all. There we go, little burst damage on the
end. So slow.
So maybe not as exciting as we made it up to be. FT Sword still does not have that Spirit of the Nine Winds, but uh-oh, as it's Dest left alone, jumped on by Gotei 5. Don't have Blink, don't have Ultimate, don't have a chance if you're a new Wah. And a second one, Lord Garfield chased down. It's just a game of mispositioning, Gore, it feels like. And immediately over to the Fire Giant, Gotei 5 are heading.
I mean, this is the right call. When you're 20 minutes in, the game's roughly even. You've got better secure anyway, not just Asunder, but you also have the Cuckoo ult. You just killed 2. What are they going to do? They're going to try to walk forward. You've got eyes on Kill Cam Kenny, thanks to Finry here. So you're going to be able to go for the zone. You have better secure.
That was just kind of an awkward Fire Giant. Quiet, easy. Spirit of the Nine Winds for confirm. Gotei 5 now regaining control a little bit. Gold is back to tied, but it's a Fire Giant around the waist of Gotei 5. XP is about even. Gore's one of the closest games I've seen in a long time. It's these towers in the farm over the next couple minutes that are going to ultimately make the difference with this FG. Chance for defense. Really need Kill Cam Kenny to get back. Drop that Ring of Spears. For at least the next 20 seconds or so, Gotei 5 have an opportunity to really balloon out some of this gold.
Yeah, this is going to be the big breakaway. I mean, even if you don't get a Phoenix with this Fire Giant, the tier 2 tower and towers on right, towers in mid, towers in left, like, we're finally going to be talking about a 10,000 gold lead if they clear those up, right? You're going to be so far ahead, plus the Fire Giant still around your belt at the time. Or I guess in this case, kind of flowing through your veins in SMITE 2. You're just on fire. And so I really do want to see, you know, how much pressure they can put onto it. I mean, I don't really dislike the idea back, spend the gold that you had in hand. I mean, you can still see 2,400 for the Cuckoo, so, you know, get to base, spend the money. Push down left, I'm feeling right now, because you could, with the timers that are set up, knock down tier 1, knock down tier 2, either back for an Ancient Fury that should be up just around then. It kind of depends on how long it takes you to get through those. Then start an assault on mid and knock down some of those towers. But it looks like they're grouping, I mean, Pyro, maybe into mid, maybe they rotate left, but it's definitely not exactly where I expected them to run down for their pressure. Still, if you can get a kill onto Kenny here, you don't really need to worry about where you're going.
Nice Riptide. Man, that's gorgeous. And it may give a kill to Gotei 5. This is a big chase down, though. Use a lot, though. Kill Cam Kenny did. Talisman of Purification and that Relic, the active. Lord Garfield doing the best that he can. So is Drunk Diplomat, realizing not much of a fight to be had. And so tier 2 towers on the left, tier 1 tower over on right. Now the concern is, can you get back? You don't have an ADC in this fight. If you're Garf's Goblins, you're hoping to win. 5v4. What does a dazzling offensive get done? Just a bit of separation. Sui's low, dashes away. Lord Garfield sent out the ultimate as well. So a bit more time for Drunk Diplomat to get into the fight. And a good thing, too, Drunk Diplomat walking back from duo lane as Gotei 5 were starting off the Phoenix. He's able to get back and rejoin their team.
Yeah, this is a moment. In an ideal world, you get a pick and you can get this Phoenix, and I understand where they're going for, but realistically, with that damage, never mind, yeah, go for it.
That is the Sobek coin flip. You go in, but you miss your pluck, and now you just wave high and bye to the opposing team. Sunprod, not much done. Sui's in as well, but the Phoenix doing its fair share of damage. The rest of the team not on the same page. Killcam Kenny low, but alive. Unless FT Sword has something to say about it. Sunprod low on the left side of this fight. And what has happened over in mid? The health bar is just shrinking and evaporating. You still have your jungler. You still have your mid laner. Can you get it done? Can you find the burst damage? The cleave. It's got to hit just about everyone because the Titan's down to half and the Titan falls to nothing. What a turnaround from Gotei 5 after Garf's Goblins start off this game perfectly. A fumble around a Fury equals a game 1 win.
I was about 30 seconds, maybe not even a full 30 seconds from recommending to back away from the Phoenix and go for the
Uh-huh.
towers, because it just felt like they didn't have the necessities to crack open the shell that was the base at that moment, right? It just felt like they were struggling, but you call it, and it's exactly what it is. There's a 50-50 with every Sobek pluck, because you go in, honestly, even if you grab someone, depends on who you grab, because you're now in their territory. If you grab a frontliner, or in this case, when you don't grab anyone at all,
Yep.
you're just surrounded by sharks in the water and you are bleeding. They are hungry and they are going to go to work. And that is exactly what happens there. The base gets cracked open, not really by Gotei 5, but Garf's Goblins crack it for them.
Yeah, they're hungry, they're mad at you, and they're going to run you down. Good start here for Gotei 5, Garf's Goblins. It's one of those games where it gives you moments of confidence, but got to clean up some of that positioning. There's some mispositioning, missed team fights, a lot of individual picks led to lack of team fight ability later on. And so you fall apart at the seams a little bit, but this is a close one. Keep your eyes on it. Playoffs on the line, but the loser still stays alive and has a chance in matchups later on here this weekend. Game number 1 to Gotei 5. Game number 2 coming up next. Gotei 5 with a close start, but then a convincing win by the end of game number 1. Here in this best of 3, so just one more win away from moving themselves onto the playoffs. But Garf's Goblins, not only a chance in this set to turn it around, 2 wins in a row is what they need, but also if they lose, a chance in a do-or-die set later on here this weekend. Everyone at home is watching us live, and that's a wonderful thing. However, if you are watching this later, oh man, now I'm confusing my brain. If you're watching this later, it might be on SMITE VOD, right? Because that's where you can. So, but do I need to read an ad to the folks on SMITE VOD? Right.
There.
You're already on SMITE VOD. So I'll just tell you right now that if you're live here with us and you've missed a different game, I've got a great place for you to go. Head on over to SMITE VOD. Not only all the action from SMITE 2, but if you're feeling nostalgic for moments like that, which I often am, I'll admit, Gore, SMITE VOD is where you want to head over on YouTube. Make sure to turn on your subscription. Ring that little bell so you get notified. And that's youtube.com/SMITE VOD. All the SMITE 2 Founder series getting uploaded there. So if you miss anything, it's a great chance. Also, if you're watching us on SMITE VOD right now, hello from the past. And
leave a comment down below that says hello.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is great. Perfect ad read. But if you're watching us live and you feel like you've missed stuff in the past or you're going to miss stuff in the future, all the games getting uploaded there. But again, Gordon, nostalgia also important because there's a lot of cool stuff on that channel.
I very often find myself going back, like I'll go back and watch World Championships. Usually, like season 10, I gotta mute it. One of those guys that was casting that, I don't know if I like his voice that much. But
man, Trelly catching strays, that is tough.
Yeah, no, he's off this weekend. That's you're right. That's so mean towards him. No, it is really fun because like you can go back, like straight up. There's certain things that like over time, memory just kind of fades, and you're like, you know what? I don't even like. I remember enjoying, the Cloud9 set in the semifinals in season 2. I couldn't tell you the beat for beat what happened. I just remember it was real good. So sometimes you gotta go watch it and get that refresher.
I wonder if they're going to say hi to us from the past. They are shouting out SMITE VOD on that cast, and we're going to go back here years in the future. Unlike
watch SMITE VOD in the year 2024.
That's right. And weirdly enough, it'll be us.
Wait, we can get ahead of it. Watch SMITE VOD in 2028.
That's right. Hi, 2028. Good to have you. Anyway, let's talk about game 1 here, Gore. It's Gotei 5 over Garf's Goblins. And again, this is one where we mentioned Garf's Goblins get off to a great start. You get a couple kills over in duo lane, a kill over in solo lane, and then sort of a get-right kill just prior to a Fury, but then also a stolen Fury and a stolen kill from Gotei 5 kind of stabilize, and then it's clean play from then on out.
Yeah, realistically, it is those first couple of minutes where we get to see what an on-her Odin duo lane is meant to do, right? Get pressure, get kills, find damage. And then pretty much every rotation, I mean, there was a Sun Prod rotation as well for a second kill over in duo lane that felt really good. But after that, it didn't feel like they really leaned into it, and Garf's Goblins, that is, to a lot of what was successful for them and what was finding success.
Yep.
And like you say, a lot of that came around that Gold Fury. They started up, and I'm going to use the second Gold Fury we saw Garf's Goblins do as an example, because that one they were successful in getting, but man, did it take forever to get it knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're that slow to actually get the damage out there and get it close, then yeah, the guy who has the Serpent of the Nine wins a big burst damage ultimate, and the guy that has a Sunder are gonna come in and ruin your life. Like, I mean, they're just gonna walk up and say, yeah, this is mine now. Good luck, have fun.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it just kind of feels like that happened to Garf's Goblins around a lot of the objectives. Despite early kill lead, it was trying to turn it into something else that just never really worked. And you can see damage numbers even favoring a majority of Garf's Goblins, right? Especially the new WA, but you can always argue the ult facilitating maybe more than necessary. More from Lord Garfield, but there were just a couple of times where a big lockdown from Moods. I mean, you had called it out. There was a huge Riptide in mid. Fire Giant was pretty easy to pick up for him. I mean, it did just feel like Garf's Goblins didn't quite know how they wanted to attack any of the objectives. And unfortunately for them, that meant the Gotei 5 could come in and say, cool, then it's ours.
And it's not always indicative of like damage that's been mitigated, but worth mentioning that the Amaterasu for Gotei 5 had like 14,000 more damage taken than anyone else in the game. And so a lot of that extra damage funneling through the Amaterasu did have like a 1, 4, and 5 KDA, something like that. So a lot of that damage wasn't necessarily mitigated, though that number was higher as well. But this is a really good look to start off here for Gotei 5. And we'll have to talk about the adjustments for Garf's Goblins as we move into picks and bans. I believe it was a Zeus and Baron ban in game number 1. And Garf's Goblins will find themselves in first pick. I struggle to find like an obvious ban outside of maybe the Yemoja, though that Kukul Khan was also really strong. There's so many strong picks. I don't know if you can ban the Cuckoo. But Gore, the Yemoja is the ban. Take that away from Moods. Does leave open the Baron. And that'll be the ban that gets changed around from the previous time. It'll be Yemoja available instead of the Baron Zombie.
Well, Dave, I'm going to keep it level with you right up front. My audio cut out, and I'm going to work on fixing that, so I didn't hear a word you just said.
Can you hear me now?
I'm going to get that settled
Can
for
you hear me now? Hello?
And then jump back into it.
All right, you can't hear me now. This is great. We can all just sit and listen to Dave and hear the things that I have to say. This is great. I've been waiting for moments where I can just jump on my soapbox and talk about whatever it is that I want to talk about. And right now, it's Sobek first pick. And that's it. Sobek first pick.
Let's liven things up, shall we?
Baron, though, I called it. Baron not banned out, ends up getting picked up first for Gotei 5. Baron has some flexibility, though, and that's worth mentioning. We've seen Baron mid, seen Baron solo. Heck, we saw Baron support for a little while at the end of SMITE 1. So I think that throws a bit of a wrench in the mix here for Garf's Goblins and what they're looking to pick up. I do wonder, though, because that Kukul Khan was so important to objective control, and later in the game, Gotei 5 was so far ahead that it didn't quite matter. You were just taking those objectives anyway. Gore, I was having a great moment here talking about how wonderful.
I'm sorry, you're right. I'll back away again.
Right, how wonderful I am. No, it's okay. I was just talking about the Baron and how flexible that pick is, but also how important that Kukul Khan was to FT Sword early in the game. But eventually you got to a point where Gotei 5 was just taking the objectives anyway. You didn't quite need that extra bit of secure. But if you don't stick that Baron in mid, I'm wondering if you go back to good objective control type composition, because that's a lot of what worked in game number 1.
Yeah, I'm really interested to watch, I guess, like the mid lane focus overall, because it's this weird thing where outside of Zeus, like, there's not a whole lot of mid laners that you're really going to be banning. I guess Baron, it depends on where you send him, right? I've seen a lot of people throw him in support. He's gone solo. And so, like, if you're looking at that, maybe grabbing, like, a Cuckoo could have been stronger for you. I'm trying to think of other, like, great secure mages right now, and realistically, I can't think of any that have, like, that huge,
gonna be fun.
Big burst. Oh, that is the game changer. So depending on where this Baron goes, might be worth going back to for Gotei 5. I think that objective control and like, we've had this conversation in the past, but like secure versus burn, I lean personally towards secure. I guess it just depends on how quickly the response time is. But Gotei 5 are also in this really good spot that they can shift things up. Do you even know who you're fighting? And it is worth mentioning that I've been kind of a non-fan of Baron support over the last few weeks, because I feel like every time I've seen it, it's lost.
Mankind
and so my help. With the Ares locked in and a lot of the other things Gotei 5 have locked up beside it, I am kind of hoping that it maybe goes for more of a mage style play, like damage, lean on it. Maybe solo lane I could be okay with, but
on my
something to get it going.
I'll destroy.
Well, it looks like it might be a solo lane.
Quite simple, really.
Here for a random shout to like a jungle Baron. I don't know about that, but you know, maybe you stick Fenrir in solo. I'm just trying to be creative here. Could be a solo lane Baron though. That'll put Ares in support, Fenrir in the jungle, and then the Hecate, strong pick so far here in SMITE 2 core. One of the new gods just in general, and then one of the first gods over in SMITE 2. Seen the players get their hands on it and looked really good. It has playmaking potential and also a whole bunch of burst damage. Gore, I'm curious your thoughts on this new though for Dest. Saw it in game 1. Of course, it's the top damage in the game. It's sort of what you expect on that pick. Did you see enough from it though to go back to it?
I think so. I feel like a lot of the picks that are returning overall, I can be a fan of. There's definitely going to be some once, and you know, when I look at like the Nuwa, the Kern, swap up for the Sobek this time around, so that's going to be able to cause some things. But if I'm looking at the I guess jungles all around, which now that I'm looking at Garf's Goblins, I'm realizing that there's going to be something spicy going into the jungle. I'm going to be a little curious as to what the like repeat performances are going to look like.
Let's answer some of those questions, Score. Game number 2 between Garf's Goblins and Gotei 5. Remember, win and into playoffs for Gotei. Lose and still one more chance at playoffs for Garf's Goblins. Sunprod on the Amaterasu jungle. Gormizer. Ama plus Bologna. Heck of a front line. Even early in the game, you know, those early game warriors feel pretty strong if you can get some damage onto the squishies. How do you scale later in the game ends up being a different question, but if nothing else, I admire the creativity.
Yeah, I like the idea. I am going to be curious about execution. It does feel like something, and I'm going to mention EMEA here because I feel like I've seen a lot of like Bologna in the jungle over there. They've definitely swapped it up. There's been other gods like that are, we'll call them quote unquote off meta, right? Because it's not the typical place you see an Ama when she gets locked in. It can work, and it can work and be absolutely devastating. It can also do absolutely nothing, and that's the coin that gets, you know, maybe the side of the coin that gets seen a little more often overall. So I'm gonna be watching Sunprod because I want to see this be successful, and I need to see it be aggressive. And like you said early on, you got some sneaky damage. Eventually, you have your ult. It can go for some really good ganks because you have a dash. Ideally, you're not having to use that as an engage, but realistically, if you need to close the gap, sometimes it's all you can do. There's definitely room for this god and this pick and this role to be the shining light and in 10 minutes be the only thing we're talking about. There's also a lot of room for this to be, you know, something we scratch our heads at in about 20 minutes when Gotei 5 win, right? It's gonna be such it's gonna choose one side, and that is it. Unfortunately, it's gonna lean really heavily into that. And like you said, when you have the front line, you look at the team fight, you gotta be able to get something done with this.
Bruh's close, but stays alive. And there's some of that early game damage we're talking about. Sunprod over into the mid lane. Did not see much of that in game number 1, Gore. The mid laner's largely unfocused on by both junglers. Everything happening over in solo and in the duo lane. Could be similar here. Dest has gone back to that blink, which ended up, despite a loss, being decent utility. Saw it allow for an escape once or twice on top of that ultimate. So maybe that slows down some of the focus from the Fenrir. Just going to be too difficult to catch up with the Nuwa and with that ultimate by the time you're finally there with the Ragnarok. Time may be over. Though, Bruz does have a blink of their own. So something worth looking at, worth mentioning, especially if we can get that blink on cooldown. Could be a nice start here to this game.
A lot of blink.
Go ahead.
like a lot of blink on.
Yeah, 5 of them. No, 6 of them.
It is gonna be, well, I say fun for you in a way, right? Having to keep track of those in the middle of a team fight.
Yeah,
if more than 3 go off at a time, that is gonna get really hectic. But it does mean that the thing that shines to me, that engage, the Sobek pluck, the Bologna ult, and the Ama ult, can kind of be easily countered, because if you get plucked, you can blink out, or if you get CC'd, you can blink away. So there's definitely a lot of runaway potential for Gotei 5. Granted, that's a long cooldown, but it does mean that they've got a lot of wiggle room to work with.
Dest, blink, but oh, he gets it off. Whoa! One last auto is all Bruz needed. Yeah, 28, but it was even lower than that. That was a couple ticks of that HP 5 for Dest, and had an ultimate right at the end there just in case. Gotei 5 might lose their support. Oh man, you nearly get first blood in mid. And Moods is gonna just delay the time, I think. Oh no, it's Dest. Gets that execute, drunk diplomat. Nope, kill is there. Dest didn't even actually end up getting an assist for that, unlucky. And first blood to drunk diplomat over in duo.
Yeah, I think that's just a classic moment, and much like you said, the chains are buying time while the Sobek is gone. The chains are buying time so drunk diplomat can't chase you down. But eventually the Reaper comes at this moment, unfortunately for Moods. There just wasn't much you can do. But like you said, the fact that you miss out on first blood by like 20 health, and now potentially losing 2 in the middle of seconds is crazy. And yet T-Souls, I mean, it's a dive, you don't get any return damage, so Sunprod dies to the tower. I mean, that's about as perfect as you could have asked for Garf's Goblins.
Sure is. Don't end up giving a kill back. However, Gore, I will remember you. I will remember you, Gore. I will remind you.
I hope so.
we have worked together long enough, Gore, that you are unforgettable to me. Don't you worry. I will remind you that game 1, near exact same start, where you get some pressure over in solo, you get some pressure over in duo. Didn't quite turn out this way though, where Kill Cam Kenny and Drunk Diplomat were able to start stacking those kills. Game 1 was kind of one and done over in duo. You needed the jungler, the Emoja was safe enough. No, Moods goes down this time. Counter gank from Sunprod as well. That's Ragnarok done for. Oh man, it's tough for Gotei 5! Everyone over in duos under threat, under watch. And now it's a 4-0 start for Garf's Goblins. It is officially different from game number 1 at this point.
And a lot of the things that I was worried about, and I think that this team comp needs in order to stay successful, is all happening for Garf's Goblins. It needs to be early pressure. It needs to be constant. And so far, they're doing both of those, and you just need to not slip up. Last time, and we even talked about it, the first few kills, they were all Garf's Goblins. It was when that Gold Fury went down that suddenly it was an even game again. So if you can manage to maintain not just this lead, but this pressure, and get an objective clean, those are the 3 check marks that mean in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, we'll be talking about a potential game 3 as opposed to looking at Gotei 5 maybe continuing to run it down, especially since Gotei 5 have Hecate, who I envision as someone who leans a little more late game. Admittedly, you can start to do stuff once the ult's online, which it is. But also the Jing Wei, who hits harder later.
Moods in some serious trouble yet again. No escape. Ends up flipping around onto Moods. 0-3 now for the Ares. Gore, we talk about the potential for like a Ymir game. You know what I mean? When you walk in, there's not really much mobility. Every once in a while, you'll have like an 0-5, 0-6 game on the Ymir. Then sometimes you carry. I feel like Ares falls into a very similar vertical to that, where it's just the type of god where either you are just going to get run down and get farmed, but every once in a while, you can play a real clean game on the Ares and totally wreck things. Unfortunately for Moods, at 0-3 in the first 7 minutes, 2 levels down to everyone in the duo lane and worse across the map. Not a great start. Really not looking good already for Gotei 5. Gonna need to see something out of Bruz start to spread some of that influence across the map.
Yeah, the good thing that Fenrir had last time was a couple of kills when you start to approach the 10 to 12 minute mark, and that's where it started to get online. You don't have that right now, and instead you have so much going your way. I mean, Baron, barely any health to work with, and the damage numbers are going to be so minimal in comparison to what a Sobek and a Bologna are going to put out. That and T-Cell's like, there's just not much you can do there.
Are you going to get a kill back on the Kill Cam Kenny? Sure are. It's a shutdown. So, silver linings are where... All right, never mind. Lord Garfield goes up down for some reason. Still had the Eagles rally, and I think that maybe surprised Bruz. Gore, this has the potential to go sideways very, very quickly, and moments like this end up telling the story. No escape. Both members of Garf's Goblins pulled back. There's a burn-in as well. Moods officially on the board, and it's kill number 1 for the Ares. Kind of an awkward, like, delayed moment there, it felt like. Garf's Goblins looking for the kill, kind of just wander in, get pulled back. Things just felt a bit disjointed there. Still a tall mountain to climb, but one step at a time for Gotei 5.
And realistically, like you said, one step at a time is the way to see. I'm really interested in their team fight around these objectives, because I do feel like that's where they're going to... No, I don't even want to use the term struggle, because I don't think that's right. I just don't think it's going to be as simple as it was before.
And
good shot.
Same for Lord Garfield. Not too bad for the Baron. Was a couple levels down, but now with a little bit of damage, gets that soul gem finished up. And good aim, as you point out, Gore. takes down Lord Garfield. Maybe it is the same as game 1, where you get off to a great start for Garf's Goblins, and then a little mistake here or there.
The better the start, the harder the fall. Is that what we're about to say? Like,
yeah,
there's
I think that's
so much
usually how it goes.
potential for it to go wrong, and we were on pace for like what 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 gold by 12 minutes, we call it. And instead, I see Gotei 5 now with a better grouping.
See what Bruz gets done with this Ragnarok and Brutalize. It just keeps going backwards for Garf's Goblins. Another kill after it was Bruz on an 0-2 start. Couple kills in a row. Could be a third. Kill Cam Kenny, tanky enough. Does not have Working in the Waters, however. Game 1 really started to fall apart for Garf's Goblins around the first fury of the game. It was stolen away by Moons. Does it happen again? Eagles rally, it's great. And how about the cleave damage from Garf's Goblins? That might be enough to win this fight here. FT Sword left by the wayside. Right as Gotei 5 building up some momentum. A 3-kill swing. Make it a 4th as Bruz left running back to Fountain and a Fury to boot. And I'll eat my words, right back to a big lead for Garf's Goblins.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, it comes down to, I think, the essence of what these gods can do on Garf's Goblins a little earlier in the game. It feels like everybody, and very much more specifically, Sunprod can facilitate early damage, Bologna can facilitate early damage, but the same thing can be said Nuwa. First few levels, you've got a lot going for you. Same thing for the Kernanos, whereas Jingwei, I want to see full build. Hecate, want to see full build. Fenrir, this is the time you should be bullying people much like you are, even if they're 3 levels up. I actually love this for a shutdown kill as well from Bruz, but it is that moment where you've got a lot of gods that are going to hit so hard in 10 minutes. You just have to survive that 10 minutes.
Gotta get there. Doing okay at it so far. Lord Garfield a threat wherever this Bologna goes on the map. A couple auto-attacking warriors. Be running down Gotei 5 in a few minutes. Can you build up some of that physical defense? That'll be important, but plenty of magical around the corner as well. Remember, Dest went, I think, the same exact build path, and it will be the same if there's an Obsidian Shard as item number 3. Was able to stack up to top damage in the game. Again, that's no surprise on a Nuwa. That ultimate hitting everyone for a little bit of burst damage. Does make a change in a fight, though, when your team is not, like, behind, like it was at the end of the game. Eventually, the other team is so far ahead that your ult doesn't do much. So, Dest, continuing with that scaling and a 2-level lead will feel a lot better on the Nuwa this time around. Getting that blink up here in 10 or so seconds. So, Cam Kenny has Working in the Water. So, ult for ult out of these supports. Call it even over in mid.
It does feel like there's a breaking point. Team-wide, Garf's Goblins have just the absolute favor on their side. But a lot of it is going to be centered around these warriors and this Ama and this Bologna.
Oh!
It's little turnaround moments, well, potential turnaround moments like that could have been maybe a little bigger for him. If it was anybody other than the Sobek, maybe you're getting a kill there. But you still have to play safe right now. I feel like getting the Jingwei online and trying to get your DPS to a stance outside of Fenrir where they can fight back a little more, you have a little more backup, that's going to be the game changer for you. It also wouldn't hurt. I mean, I feel like I've seen Moods get kind of smacked around. I mean, that burst damage right there from Dest was way more than I expected it to be. And yeah, there's a 3-level difference, but maybe you want a little more tankiness from your frontliners as well.
Yeah, you're going to need to get there. Remember, Moods has just had a brutal game here in Game 2. Started off 0-3. Has improved now to 1-4. Still even in levels with Killcam Kenny. But need a little bit more of that to maintain the pace and the stability. Seen a bit more focus over in mid lane as well this game.
Yeah.
Still not completely out of control. Most of the fighting happening on the opposite sides of the map. But a gank or 2 sent towards mid, and really neither one worse for wear. At this point, both Dest and FT Sword in a fine spot as far as their farm goes. And I think we're going to end up looking at this next Gold Fury as the whatever, like, the little brother of Make or Break is. That'll be the type of moment that we get around this Fury. Not game ending, but really gives Garf's Goblins good opportunity and good foothold if they're able to get this next Fury fight. Could be a kill, though. Bruz sends out the Ragnarok. Life of the party out. Eagles rally out. A bunch of ults changed back. And no one left to the grave site. So Fury about to spawn. Let's see how these teams react.
And then the older brother of Make or Break has to be do or die. There's got to be, yeah, like a third create or don't or something like that.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's just something that is a step towards the right direction.
Yep.
Which I think could be here. I mean, Garf's Goblins, I like the position they're in. And
wow,
again, it's about extending the lead.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that... And there's a lot right there that surprised me, but maybe Gotei 5 kind of slowly meandering over to the left lane is the one that caught me off guard the most. If they can get a couple of towers, though, that'll help at least mitigate that Gold Fury. It's the other one that, you know, happened earlier that still has a pretty comfortable lead for Garf's Goblins that still exists. That they're still trying to make up.
If Make or Break is kind of the middle child, Do or Die is the oldest child, and then whatever, neither here nor there is the youngest child. The like infant newborn beneath all of them is I don't know what, like just a moment, whatever like a bland pale moment is. This one I think still the infant, the slight advantage to Garf's Goblins, but Gotei 5 clearly not trying to risk that Fury. I mean, again, it was a slow meander over, but how about a 1v1 between our ADCs? Oh, I thought it was instead a 2v1. But can Gotei 5 even win this moment? Drunk Diplomat dashes away, gotta get the Ragnarok. And with that, the kill falls as well. 2 ultimates in trade for the kill on a Drunk Diplomat. But that means their numbers advantage for Garf's Goblins over on right. They'll pull the Pyromancer as a result. Still a tier 1 tower, fully healthy over in the duo lane. That's maybe where Bruz and Joshi turn their eyes. RG uncontested. Oh man, reset around this Pyromancer has made it awkward, but maybe a steal potential. This is one of the more awkward Pyromancers I've ever seen. That leash just totally resetting things. No shot moods through the wall with a chain gets anything done. Pyromancer's still there. Finally, it falls. And it's Garf Goblins. But Gora, tier 1 tower, traded back for Gotei 5. So this is all calculated trades for Gotei 5. They know that Pyromancer's going down and are uninterested.
Yeah, it feels like the first time that Pyromancer starts, right? And you call it. You've got 2 on left. You know you're clear. Numbers advantage. Good. And I think Gotei 5 think the exact same thing. But then you enter this weird spot where it takes so long, you get a reset, Moods is just waiting to blink over the wall in the event that it's necessary. But because Gotei 5 hadn't started a rotation, you still have the numbers advantage, so they can't really take the fight either. And that just continues, because there's no point where Bruz is like, well, I need to rotate over to help this fight, because, like, it should have been done. It should have been finished. It was a sure thing. So instead, you get to put some pressure on towers. I kind of like this little bit of a trade-off. Overall, gold, and specifically that Runic Bomb in pocket for Garf's Goblins, I think going to be a pretty big game changer over the next few minutes. But the start of trying to go for a Fire Giant, right? Last time around, 20, 21 minutes in, like, you were in the clear to make that play and make that goal. I don't know that you have that right now if you're Garf's Goblins. Like, you can still go for it, but it's not going to be as smooth as what we saw before.
Moods died a lot in the early game, slowed down, and now unfortunately as we start to approach the late game, another death. This is what you cannot afford to do if you want to mount any type of comeback. Those individual picks are killer. It's hard enough to fight 5k down when you're 5v5 without your Ares. Really tough look here for Garf's Goblins. Could it be the FG call? Appears to be so. Runic Bomb, as you mentioned, Gormizer. Things stagnated for just a moment there, but Garf's Goblins quick on the uptake again. Gotei 5, remember, elect not to pick that Kukulkan, so Spirit of the Nine Winds not available. 4 steal potential. Dest just lurking, and actually looks like it's dropped here by Garf's Goblins, unhappy with the read on the map that they were getting in the presence of Gotei 5.
I like the call to drop it. I feel like you have the better secure.
Oh, man.
Poor Dest. I mean, that There's no better way to say it. That sucks. Like that just sucks top to bottom every day of the week. Your team not only doesn't get the Fire Giant because Runic Bomb is the best secure in the game right now. Are you going to rely on that? Maybe not. Now you're going to be down in numbers. I love that Gotei 5 immediately go to make a play to get active with this.
Yep. That numbers advantage, important more so than the gold advantage at this point, if you can fight this properly. Fury reset once again. No escape, only connects onto Lord Garfield, but Talisman of Purification disengages this fight. 8 seconds left on Dest. There will be a Nuwa ultimate immediately back in Fountain if any of those health bars are low enough. So you're going to have kind of a half presence from your mid laner with that global ultimate. Up and over. Eagles rallies in, and Fury over to Gotei 5, but the rest of the fight
good blink
doesn't look perfect. Out goes Killcam Kenny, and down are 2 on Gotei. Sunprod on the shutdown, and you're trading Fury for 3. Garf's Goblins near steal. They're not worried. They got themselves some kills.
Yeah, it felt like we were in a good spot for the blinks to matter, the Fury to matter.
What is Joshi doing?
Dying?
I guess.
Maybe.
I mean,
You're Jing Wei, so you might be able to get out of this just because Jing Wei things, but the blink from T-Souls to unfortunately a still demise, right? Out of the frying pan into the fryer. There just wasn't a safe spot for Gotei 5. I like the call for the Fury. It took a little too long to really secure. And again, the fight being so focused on you having to DPS the Fury and not the other team just hurts.
Fire Giant to Garf's Goblins. Maybe now it's Joshi who falls. Sunprod traded out. So, I mean, you'll take a 1-for-1 trade if you're Gotei 5, but you also just lost the Fire Giant. Garf's Goblins have wrestled back control. Now, they've had gold control for most of this game, but a bit awkward there in the last few minutes. And now stabilizes for Garf's Goblins. Give themselves a second Runic Bomb, Fire Giant buff. 3 tier 2 towers, Gormiser, and so really going to depend on the timing, how long these first couple of towers get pushed down.
Yeah, that's honestly the biggest thing. So Fire Giants fall into a very interesting category because they are so powerful. And you've already got a very comfortable gold lead. Admittedly, Sunprod not having it might slow things down slightly, right, overall, but realistically, it's not the end-all be-all. It's the step up and progress that you make, though. If you can burn the timer, I mean, Gotei 5, the game's close enough that if you can 5-man group, and I really mean it, I need all 5 of them together, you could probably set up a semi-stiff defense around a tier 2. Like, you know, it's not going to be soft defense. You're not going to fall back at the first sign of trouble. But you don't really want to draw a hard line in the sand and say we either die here or you know, we win. So you need to be able to set up just enough to make sure that you can hold on. Don't know if I like what they were doing, which was instead kind of meandering around the jungle on the left-hand side. I mean, maybe it looked like they were going for something, but the other team's going to just push fire or push with fire faster than anything you could do. So maybe they were hunting, didn't find their prey. Instead, I mean, Garf's Goblins get to SEAL Team Sticks. They run in, they knock it down, they get out.
Maybe. Chance for a defense, but you're so far behind if you're Gotei 5. Looking down a game 3 here. Whoa, no escape! That is beautiful. There's a little something called Talisman of Purification. That has got to feel terrible for Moods. I think that hit everyone. Definitely 4, if not all 5. But Killcam Kenny wags their finger and says, nah, sorry about it. Been a forgettable game for Moods. And as great as that looked, get the Talisman of Purification, and that's ultimately the trade for what looked like a 5-man no escape. So it's worth something, Gore, but you're going to need to find that setup somewhere else on your team. Without that Talisman, Ragnarok could be a bit more effective, life of the party. A bit more lockdown in that roster of Gotei 5, but it looks like they are just not going to try to fight. Not much worth extending out for. So it was a nice little moment that I thought could be a cool initiation. Ends up fizzling, and a couple towers handed over to Garf's Goblins.
Yeah, it really does feel like you took the small lead you had and manifested it into something a little bit more. Kind of classic Fire Giant, right? Not getting a Phoenix is the most important thing Gotei 5 could have stalled out there, I think, that more than anything. Just being able to survive, being able to have a hard line of defense. You know where your line of scrimmage is at. It's not a great position. Your jungle isn't safe. You can't really step up for, you know, a Pyro or a Gold Fury because it's just not worth it for you. But you're still in a spot to fight for a Fire Giant because you're within striking range. I mean, your builds are definitely falling behind Power Spikes. I'm looking at Ratatouille. I think that's a full tier 3, yeah, over what you have in mid lane for Dest. So, like, Power Spikes are hard favoring Garf's Goblins. But there is still times and places to fight. Around your Phoenix is one of them. And I think they are a team that could step up to this next Fire Giant with the position there and to try and at least defend.
I mean, you got to be at the point now. You're 10k down. Fights aren't feeling great anyway, but it's that type of awkward position where teams say, all right, we're going to defend under Phoenix or we're going to defend under Titan, whatever it may be, and then you just sort of never get that chance to fight. You know, you just slowly are backing up. Before you know it, they're underneath your Titan and the game just ends. Maybe you have a slightly better chance when you're underneath your Phoenix, sort of a sixth man, but maybe you catch them off guard. You're in trick play territory at this point. If you're Gotei 5, Fire Giant will respawn. Be available for Garf's Goblins to step up towards. Always subject to a potential Sobek pluck miss. You dash in, now you're left alone, but that is one tanky crocodile. Gotei 5 are gonna have to burn him down. Remember, it's a Jingwei late in the game. Plenty of damage online. Can you place it though? Ends up being the question. Or is a Sobek gonna just ruin your day? Step forward, moods.
Often happens, honestly.
Yeah. Sure does. One way or the other, Sobek's ruining your day. Either it's your teams, if you got the Sobek, or the other teams, if it's on the other team, in my case. Go Cam Kenny, steps forward. But instead, it's an Eagles rally onto 3. What a start for Garf's Goblins. Lord Garfield, though, slowed down. Knife of the party. Sends Souls back. Lord Garfield starts off the fighting and finishes off the first kill. This Bologna on a warpath and kill Cam Kenny on the execute. Gotei 5, I mean, you were behind, but now you're falling apart at the seams. And how about a game 3 for Garf's Goblins, a dismantling of Gotei down the stretch?
I am going to have to look it up. Maybe there are games that I haven't seen where it's happened, but if I'm going to be completely honest, like the biggest difference makers in this one is the duo lane. I mean, Sobek, straight, like it's so easy to argue. Way better performance overall than what we've gotten out of the Ares, right? 1 and 7, 0 on the other side of that, so not even able to find like a ton of assists, wasn't really helping and facilitating any kills. It was much like you said, sometimes you just have those games where you just don't do anything, and that's where this Ares was. But yep. You also get that the Jingwei never really did anything compared to what the Keranos was able to do. And then the Bologna versus the Baron. I mean, I will admit I'm kind of a Baron naysayer. I feel like I've seen him be banned for 3-4 weeks now, however long it's been. And like the first 2 weeks, I understood it because the healing was crazy, the CC was crazy, the damage was crazy. I have not seen him win a lot of games competitively in the Founders series. And I'm kind of wondering if he's even worth the ban because I just feel like he's not had a lot of success compared to like what the 8-2 Bologna on the other side. Yep. I just feel like there were a lot of places there for Gotei 5 where just things slipped out of their hands super fast and they were never able to truly claw their way back into it.
Yeah, I felt a bit outclassed here in game 2, which is surprising considering game 1. They look great. Makings of a close one here. Game number 3, playoffs on the line. However, the loser not going home, not just yet, but you'd like to just go ahead and get it done here in game 3. Garf's Goblins, Gotei 5, game 3, coming up next. Game 3 in our SMITE 2 Founder Series. Gore, I always love the like, guess what Dave and Gore were laughing about during the break game that we played. I mean, we've casted together for like 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
The amount of times you and I have come back from break and just been laughing, I have to imagine.
It's got to be innumerable. I don't know how often.
Innumerable. And guess what? You at home, you're never going to know. Unlucky
No.
for you. You're never going to know what we're laughing about.
Half the time, by the time we get to this point, we don't even remember what we were laughing about.
No, I'm not sure.
I feel like there's probably advice, and maybe like in the first few years, I heeded it like from aggro of like, hey, make sure like always treat the mic like it's hot. Make sure that, you know, like blah, 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 all that stuff. And there's like a certain amount of it that does still register.
Yeah.
But there's a point, and this happens everywhere, right? When the more comfortable you get with something, the closer you'll cut those calls, and we'll be yapping up until we go live.
We're professional. We're professional. I'm not worried about it. Game 3 though, between Gotei and Garf's Goblins. Gore, game 1 was a good start from Garf's Goblins, and then a bit of a throw around a Fury, and Gotei really wraps things up. This one, there were glimmers of hope for Gotei 5, but really felt in control of Garf's Goblins. A couple moments of slip up. Ultimately, it was just the Amaterasu, the jungler, that died a few times, but everyone else near impossible to kill, it felt like. And so this is just really good luck here in game 2 for Garf's Goblins. And the bonus of winning game 2 means you are carrying all of that momentum now and that mental game into game 3.
Yeah, I really do think it's a good place to be overall, because it wasn't just, hey, you won game 2. Like, you just kind of smacked them around. Like, I mean, Gotei 5 had their moments, but realistically, Garf's Goblins didn't have a time where it felt like they were truly struggling. There were just moments where finally something went right for Gotei 5 more than anything. 170, 151. You don't really get any impact from the frontliners there for Gotei 5 versus the 829, 4113. I mean, like, hands on for everyone for Garf's Goblins, to the point where like Sunprod, despite the fact that in the past I would probably view Sunprod as like a linchpin, where it's like, hey, this is the reason, not the only reason, but a heavy reason you're going to win is because Sunprod's really just damn good at Smite. And that's going to cause a lot of trouble for anybody that's involved on the other side. And instead, this time around, you get this opportunity where like Sunprod's just kind of facilitating the plays. It's the damage coming from the carry, the damage coming from mid that is really the driving factor for this team going forward. And they make it so clean into the objectives. They never really felt like they were worried about it. Even when they lost the objective, they slaughtered Gotei 5 afterwards. So there were so many moments that even when things went wrong, they worked out for Garf's Goblins.
Playoffs on the line for this one, Gore Miser. Game 3, let's get into picks and bans. And as I've mentioned, the loser not going home, just winner guaranteed to move on to our playoffs. So now we've seen the story unfold a little bit. You know, we've seen Zeus just immediately banned all 3 games now. Baron was banned in game 1, gets let through in game 2, plays in the solo lane, doesn't look great. Yeah, the emoji ban for Garf's Goblins makes some sense. Moods near unstoppable on that pick in game number 1. Sobek's been doing some winning here, so Gore, this one makes some sense. I'm curious where the Baron falls, if at all, because it was not a great showing there in game number 2. It was Gotei 5 who picked it. Do you feel like that was maybe a point for readjustment if you're Gotei and you're kind of draft strategizing here? So you're going up against a lot of the same that you were there in game 1. Amaterasu, CERN, plenty of physical damage to run you down.
Yeah, what I really think, if you're Gotei 5, it feels weird because I think their focus and the control they had specifically around the objectives was helpful, but I don't know if it was what won that game as much as it was that Garf's Goblins, because of their draft, couldn't deal a lot of damage. They couldn't do a lot on their own. And so your secure was then that much better because they couldn't really contest it. I think the Kern is a good balancing point. I think maybe one of the bigger openers to make sure that this stays a little more Garf's Goblins balanced. I'm also interested in Soul, mainly because Soul, you know, Dave, you go back and you watched it, but like Alpha Weekend 4 into the 24/7 tournament into the beginning of the Founder Series for like 2 weeks. Soul was
No
like
fight
the
is
de facto. It
unwinnable
was
if
Soul
we
Jing
try
Wei.
our
It was
hardest.
what you needed, what you had, what worked.
Right.
Then she just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Oh,
So I'm excited
my
to see her back because I think she's still really solid. She's definitely different, right? Crit right now isn't as strong. Very different draft all around from Gotei 5, but I'm excited to see what this Soul can do.
Yeah, and I think what you need is a totally different draft all the way around. It was just not a great game number 2 there for them. So I like the idea of just reshuffling everything. Love what I'm seeing from Garf's Goblins, though, Gore. Loki presumably out of the jungle. Maybe Chalk support. Maybe Ama support, I suppose. But we've seen all 3 characters play, except maybe Loki support. But all 3 characters play all 3 roles with an asterisk on it. Basically at all different times. This is a run you down style of composition. A lot of physical damage, though, Gore. And that's going to maybe leave Dest on this Nuwa 3 games in a row, by the way. An opportunity to deal a bit more of that magical damage over to Gotei 5.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the like who's jungling. Is it going to be the Bologna in the jungle? Which, do I agree with it? That's going to be a very different conversation overall. Like, is Soul Jingwei on her? Whatever they're doing, it's different, and it's very different. Has a lot of damage potential, like you said. Might struggle in some aspects of it, maybe easier to itemize against overall because of the draft. And Garf's Goblins with their front line can be just as aggressive. Like, I look at these comps, Dave, and outside of the Sobek, like, I imagine this is going to be a very, very bloodbathy game. Like, there's so much damage available early on. You know, the health bars are going to be kind of low until builds get to a certain point. It feels like there should be a lot, which is very different from what I expect out of a game 3. So I wonder if they'll match the pace of farming, or if they'll go for the fights that these comps kind of call out to.
A little chaos around the corner maybe in game number 3. Gotei 5 bringing something I'm excited about. Let's see how it all shakes out in the final game of this best of 5. Best of 3 is what I mean to say. Best of 5, we'd be here for another 3 hours probably. Best of 3, where we're tied up at 1. Winner goes on to playoffs. Loser, still a chance to make it. And they'll play those matches, I believe, tomorrow. So ends up being a solo. And then a Jingwei over an ADC, and then a mid lane on her, Gore. Auto attacker's name of the game. I mean, you can even throw Bologna into that mix. So Gotei 5 looking to bring the pain a bit. Death by 1,000 cuts, or if you're Jingwei late in the game, maybe 2 or 3, but it's a real interesting build to this composition.
Yeah, this is a comp that it has a lot of potential. It not only can work, but it can work in spades. But it can fall apart just as easily. So it really does, you know, come down to execution on field, and maybe a little bit to Garf's Goblins, right? If you feed some of the kills over early on to what this draft does, Gotei 5 run over you. I mean, that is what this draft can do. It can do so much damage in the blink of an eye. If it can get ahead, the itemization is going to be there, and then they are going to just absolutely demolish you. We're talking a little bit about what? Burn versus Secure.
Yeah.
This is a team that should have the burn. Based on the auto attackers, like, you better be able to burn. It's just whether or not they're going to go tanky. Like, what is, you know, Bruz build going to look like? What's T-Souls? Is T-Souls going to go hybrid? Is T-Souls going to lean into the damage? Like, that kind of stuff is really, really important for the success of this team. Because you can see early in lane, obviously, you can smack people around. But if you go for this, like, hybrid build, it might not be the most effective route for you, right? I like Soul to be as damaging as possible. I would prefer you to go for something like that, but are you going to be able to fill your role if you do that? Is that what your role is this game? There are a lot of questions that I need to see them answer more than anything, just to see if it works the way that it should.
Right. Plenty of defensive options as well. On the flip side, if you are worried about just tons of basic attack damage, choices there. Out of the Nemean line, Leviathan's Hide, few choices. I was about to say, though, it's not often a Chalk gets bullied out early in the laning phase. This is why you just have too much damage, but needed the assistance of Sunprod on the rotation over. T-Souls nearly gets it. Had Lord Garfield chunked down, and a real simple rotation over from the Loki. I mean, you are putting a traditionally duo lane character in the Soul. Typically, you have that handheld by a support. alone over in the solo lane. And so T-Cells has got to watch that positioning, watch those jungle ganks, because you don't have that support help early in the game.
Yeah, realistically, it is you are winning lane punishment, right? Like, T-Cells was doing really well, doing the autos, like you said. Not often that you get to see anybody beat up a Chalk, but Lord Garfield was struggling. And so Sunprod sets the record straight. Sunprod comes over and says, hey man, that's not how this lane is going to work. And you have the ability to do it again. Normally, I would advocate, and I'm fine advocating, for no pressure in solo, because who are you going to kill? But this Soul is kind of an easy target. All you need is for T-Cells to take too many steps forward, especially now that you know the immunity's on cooldown.
Mm-hmm. But T-Cells learns the hard way how positioning needs to work throughout the landing phase, and so back and safe. I mean, this is really a chance for Sunprod on the Loki to feast a little bit. I mean, you've got some great opportunities here. Now those ADCs between the On-Her and the Jingwei especially can get up, dash away. I mean, hard to lock down, but once Assassinate's online, man, it's potentially really good targets. Bruz over towards duo lane. Say maybe running face first into the Garf's Goblin duo. See how much fighting happens here, because that's going to open up the door to Bologna to rotate in once again. Still no ultimate from Bologna, but a pluck back. Let's kill Cam Kenny on the back foot. So support Amaterasu, by the way. Bruz just doesn't have enough damage. I mean, if there's an Eagles rally there, I think you're looking at another kill for Garf's Goblins, or maybe the first kill rather for Gotei 5, but. Nothing else. You push him back, Gore, and you get yourself a purple buff steal on the opposing side's jungle.
Yeah, I imagine, and again, it's the fun of this, which is, while it always seems and feels, and at least in my mind, you think that it should just be a bloodbath, and there's still the potential to. The game 3 of things changes the pace. Oh my god, the damage, the RP.
Oh no!
No!
Oh yes! Sunprod over the wall! I don't know if you needed the damage from Dest, but it certainly helps. Sunprod, Assassinate does its job, executes. And that'll be a kill number 2 for Garf's Goblin. Second kill of the game, affected by the Loki as well. Man, Gotei 5, you're looking, your FT sword, you're thinking you got out of this one just fine. Sadly, no. That, I guess, doesn't last long enough, and that'll be the second kill of the game. That's what I'm talking about with this Loki. Really good chance to just spread out that chunk damage and get your kill off to a great start. And Garf's Goblins, 1 and some change thousand in the lead at the 5 minutes.
Yeah, playing, I think, incredibly well for where they're putting their focus. And a lot of it, like you said, I mean, in mid, do you need the ult from Dest? It's definitely not going to hurt you. And Sunprod getting one of those kills, facilitating, you know, both of them, no matter what, making sure that it happens this way. It gets Dest off to a good start, who I already think has a little bit more damage than what you're going to see out of the On-Her. It's good for fights like this. I mean, yeah, just take the fight to them. Don't let Gotei 5 just farm helplessly.
And, oh, a nice impale, but again, it's the Loki on the gap close. It's these last-ditch efforts for kills that have just been paying off. Middle to right of this map has just not been good for Gotei 5. Their dual lane, Moods and Joshi, have been A-okay. Haven't felt the wrath of Loki just yet, though, so still could be a rotation over towards left. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Ultimates online. Assassinate. Not needed for Sunprod just a moment ago. So you still got it if you want to make your way towards left. Need to find an answer. Unfortunately, it would be Bruz, who's supposed to be the jungler, rotating around, but just shut down in the jungle. More traditional style composition, Gore, for Garf's Goblins, at least early in game 3, starting to pay off a bit. And you keep funneling through this Loki. It's a pretty good look going into the mid game.
Yeah, this is I think, not just a good look for him, but
Assassinate.
Yeah, Sunprod can just continue chasing people down. You've got damage, you got body blocks. Maybe this one falls flat just because so much gets used in order to stay alive, and unfortunately that Aegis buys a lot of time.
Whoa, Lord Garfield alive? Probably gonna go down, but can you trade out a kill? Is the tower gonna get it done? No, it's not. T-Souls was low. The dash and the block maybe get something done there. Either way, it's a goose egg for Lord Garfield, the Overlearn Soul. Looks like he did his best. Nearly turns around some damage. And enough damage on a T-Souls. But finally see something Gore out of Bruz. Needed to see this Bologna start to make an impact on the map, and the chalk was the answer. Joshi and Moods, though, they're in a 2v1. But there's an Amaterasu we're talking about. It's a bit speedy, a bit difficult to lock down. T-Souls may pay for the kill just a moment ago. Sunprod rotates over to the blue buff. Now left running one more time. But how long is this chase going to go? I mean, this is a Loki. Starting to waste a little bit of time here. Enough damage with the Desert Fury. And the up down. There you go. So, finally a kill. I was wondering if they were going to be able to get it, but the gap close is enough. Takes a minute, but Gotei 5, couple kills in the last couple minutes.
And those couple of kills, it means a lot more. In these moments where no team has done an objective, although I should say look at the Gold Fury. Yeah, exactly. You're not in the best spot overall, right, for Gotei 5. You're still down in kills. The Gold Fury is definitely going to help continue a Garf's Goblins early victory so far. But those kills balance things out way more than you would hope. And that's the glory of things. Until a Gold Fury goes down, it stays relatively even, and you get some pretty big kills. I mean, killing on Sunprod is a huge deal. And then getting pressure in mid now.
Eagles rally for Bruz after a really quiet start in the jungle. Now a couple of kills starting to flip back. But it's this overwhelming pace of the Loki that's still leading the way here. 3-1 for Bruz, 4-1 for Sunprod. A teleport over towards right and a blink out from Lord Garfield. Should secure their escape. What a battle we've got going on out of the jungle here. Loki's just been about everywhere they've been needed. Bruz, after a slow 0-1 start, has now started to pick up the pace as well. It's exciting, Gore, going to the 10-minute mark. First Fury of the game, moment ago. That's a big difference maker here for Garf's Goblins as well, but both junglers have finally started to find their footing.
Yeah, and honestly, you also end up in this position where the fact that Sunprod has been on the receiving end of a few of well, I say one kill, I guess, overall, one death for Sunprod, again, kind of enables you to get a little extra gold, maybe get a little more aggressive, although the assassinate, like the presence that we've had, also I'm just now glancing at their relics and seeing that it's 4 blinks, not just, one maybe that would make sense on the Loki that I saw or on the Amma, but they've got 4 top to bottom. It does feel like this is a draft, not only that was built to be aggressive, same thing for Gotei 5, built to be aggressive, but one that really succeeds at it pretty much 10 minutes on. I mean, they've got a lot of really good mid-game. Amma, who's going to be tanky enough at this point and damaging enough to be able to jump forward, deal, and do what is necessary. Same thing, Dest does enough damage right now that you can be active in the fights. Drunken Diplomat does enough that you can do a lot right now in these fights. Meanwhile, and I'll say this every time, but like for Jingwei, I'm still waiting for some power spikes. Probably the same for On Her, although at least you're a little safer. Soul can smack around, but be smacked around in the process, and you cannot afford to get caught out in the enemy jungle like this.
Bruz has been doing much better. Is that pace going to continue? A pluck back for Moods. Essential. Wow, simply just not enough. Not even close to enough damage from Dest. Tickled Bruz more than anything. Back in on the Eagles rally. Oh, Sunprod assassinates away with a sliver of HP. Now Drunk Diplomat caught in the pillar. Plucked back, and it'll be a kill for Gotei 5. Game 3 coming down to the wire now. T-Souls on the flip side could give a kill back to Garf's Goblins. Where Garfield killed Cam Kenny. Find an important answer to the kill on left.
This game is tug of war. And admittedly, no one, I mean, I guess technically still Garf's Goblins coming out on top just because that's the way the numbers have been run. But once this tier 1 goes down, it's not going to be anywhere near as in their favor. And maybe, I don't know if Bruz comes out of this on top, but definitely doesn't die from it. That was a risky call, if I'm honest. If he overstays his welcome, will die. But you've got Jingwei, you've got presence. This is a really interesting spot to be in for this game because there's no clear path, really, for either of these squads. Like, if you look at the next few minutes, this Gold Fury coming up, that might be your small opening, but you need to win a fight before you really go for that. Neither squad has enough secure that I feel confident saying you could pull it in a 5-on-5, unless you're going for specifically the bait for a 5-on-5 fight. So maybe there's a room for Garf's Goblins to try and start something up and get the ball rolling. Same thing could be said for Gotei 5. But otherwise, you're not in a spot where you can get aggressive on a tower. You're not really in a spot for either to do more than maybe look for solo kills or picks. So reset, look at the gold. It's not too crazy. Power spikes, items, not too crazy. Really, we are just in a small stepping stone point for the game.
Seems like this is one of those games that just comes down to one positioning mistake. Things really close. The neither here nor there. Gold Fury maybe around the corner unless there's a big fight to be had. It's Bruz low. Steps back, still has Eagles Rally for engage or disengage, depending on what you need. Knock up and silence from War Garfield. Has one of the 3 ADCs low, but the other one, it's Joshi! With damage and an airstrike up and over. Lord Garfield back into the fight with that extra sustain, but who has left the Jingwei alone? Gotei 5! Jam the escape button. Joshi takes one with him. Over in solo lane. T-Souls and Sunprod, and back to the Fury goes Garf's Goblins, feeling a little better about their health bars after the 1-for-none trade here on left.
I like Moods' present here. Doesn't have the ult, so really you might go for the pluck. You've got your Gary coming back. Yeah.
Man, it's FT's sword from the back of this fight, but it's Bruz from the front. Double knock-up. And what a re-engage from Gotei 5. This is the wrong direction for Drunk Diplomat. And a 2-kill swing way after the fact for Gotei 5 brings it right back to even. And now it's a Gold Fury pull for Gotei 5. Kills even, gold even, games even at 14 minutes.
I mean, that is maybe the biggest fight you could have asked for. Both a big crit from Joshi. Admittedly, Killcam Kenny, I think, was the 1-1 trade out when what you had prior to the Gold Fury. But then the rotation and specifically just having so many carries available. I mean, Soul's 0-4, but it's still a Soul, right? As long as it's involved, you're going to be fine. And that's on the right lane. You get this on her, and again, it's on her. Something you have to be worried about, but it's just so much better from Garf's Goblins.
Sunprod has been fighting with T-Souls for a little bit of time. Finally able to grab that kill. Garf's Goblins slight advantage here. And you pointed out, Gore, much better. Fury ends up falling for them. Kill Cam Kenny. Sort of addicting to say. Just rolls off the tongue. It's like velvet.
Honestly, it kind of sucks that he's a support. If he was a carry, that would be such a fun name to pop off with.
Also, the wrong game. Imagine if you implemented kill cams into SMITE, and every single time someone got a kill, the game would pause and it would like show their name at the bottom and then just replay the kill as it happened. Yeah, games would take about an hour at that point. Some already do anyway. Double knock-up, double silence from Lord Garfield. Garf's Goblins. Little wind in their sails. The one pick onto Moods, unable to get into lurking in the waters. Bruz dashes forward. Pyromancer, a great last few minutes for Garf's Goblins. 3K gold in the lead. After just 2 minutes ago, things were even.
Yeah, the kills maybe don't speak as much to this, right? I feel, well, I guess it's only 2 in the head. For some reason, my math was way off there when I glanced up and thought the 7 was a 4. Very different story if it is. Instead, it's really that steal. I mean, if that goes the way of Gotei 5, it's probably still a little even overall, maybe slightly favoring Gotei 5 and the Orta squad, but for now, David is slowly descending into the madness that I kind of was expecting. A lot of squishy health bars, right? The tankiness you're getting from itemization. Admittedly, the ones who are going to be tanky, you got to spend a lot of money. Otherwise, if you're like T-Souls here, you just got to withstand the constant onslaught of diving a tower.
Whoa! Sunprod over the wall, but man, it's right into the waiting arms of Bruz. Man, there's your kill. Man, these teams are just refusing to accept an advantage. Now 2-kill swing back the opposite way. Sunprod, kill cam Kenny. Dropping kills, and what does that mean? Is that a fire giant to Gotei 5? Sure is the pull. Killcam Kenny's the one with the runic bomb, so a bit of burst damage. Steal potential for Garf's Goblins. No longer on the map. Around the back of this fight is Lord Garfield, and he goes! And the Fire Giant looks like it's confirmed by Gotei 5. But what else do you got? A kill for Lord Garfield, but one ends up back in the hands of Gotei 5. And what an FG pull after a couple of kills for these teams just battling it back and forth. Kills dropping left and right. And it's a gold lead for Garf's Goblins, but maybe a map presence lead. Maybe not even. This Drunk Diplomat shoving down this tier 2 tower over in duo.
Yeah, I like the idea immediately from Garf's Goblins because he kind of got smacked around overall. I guess you've been able to balance it out. It looks it's on the current, so we can see Garf.
Wait, so did they steal that away?
I guess they steal that away.
Who stole it away? Who? Would that have been Lord Garfield in? I thought Gotei 5 locked it in. And now just seeing the fire burning for Garf's Goblins, I'm realizing that was a steal for Garf's Goblins. There was a 3v5 around FG. That must have been Lord Garfield in. I didn't think he had got it, but apparently he did, and it's Garf's Goblins with the big advantage now. Gotei 5 on the pull. I liked the call. Execution not good enough. So the rest of Garf's Goblins able to maintain that FG buff on a few on a nice steal in from Lord Garfield.
And being able to now, I mean, knock down several towers. Like, this is the first time that I think we've had a gold lead in the game that is actually significant enough to warrant discussing, because it does mean tier 3s that you're going to start seeing on the side of Garf Goblins, passives that exist that just won't be available to Gotei 5, stats that exist that won't be available to Gotei 5, and it's going to continue going that way even further beyond with the way that Garf's Goblins have been playing. I just love where their mind is at and where the way that they've been playing this. I mean, it's kind of thrown to the wind, right? Caution is not a thing I think either of these teams have exercised at any point in this game, but it is something that has led to, 21 kills in 19 minutes. It is something that has led to moments where the flashy plays are happening, and sometimes, unfortunately, the flashy plays happen for and against you. I mean, both the junglers have 5 kills, but when you look at solo lane and you know, you talk about the chalk and the tankiness that brings versus the Soul, who I was kind of curious as to like what the build was going to look like, what T-Souls was going to be. T-Souls is in a spot where you just are what, like 0-6, 1-6. Rain Dance keeps you healing. You've got big CC, 0-6-5 on the other side. Yeah, you've got sustain and can potentially match that out of a chalk. Yeah, you can deal damage, but it is easier to lock you down, and I think that has been something that the entire Order team has been missing, is Loki has kept T-Souls under lock the entire time, and Sunprod's still been able to rotate in and help in these fights, whereas Soul has spent most of that time dead.
Sure has. Has not been a gamble that's paid off for Gotei 5. Man, the tower's just stripped from the map in the last couple of minutes. How about that call on the Fire Giant ends up being stolen away by Garf's Goblins? Dazzling Offensive gets used. Cam Kenny's low, but lurking in the water. Is the soap back up and over? Oh, is this the play for Joshy? The body blocks, good enough. And the airstrike doesn't connect. Kill Cam Kenny on the bait in lives. Amaterasu somehow survives. Phoenix in mid taken down, left exposed, right side still a tier 2 tower. Garf's Goblins have just really wrestled complete control of this map over. But you're starting to get to that point, Gore, where you're like, all right, we picked 3 auto attackers. I mean, time for them to pay off, right? You're at the 21-minute mark, and this is when you need to start seeing some of that scaling.
Yeah, this is the time, especially, again, when you talk about the gold and itemizations. Scaling is going to matter, but also I'm looking at items, and like, Loki should be hitting a little harder now. Serrated Edge that's been bought at the very end of the build. You can see it. I feel like this Jing Wei has been doing a very, very, very great job, but I don't know that the Jing Wei is in that spot. I mean, I don't know, level 18 with this build, maybe this is the time for Joshy to shine. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but Drunk Diplomat has been in the spot to shine for a few minutes, and unfortunately Sunprod also still just like exists in general.
Ow. That's half HP on just a couple auto attacks.
And an Aegis.
And an Aegis. Assassinates there, but Sunprod should be able to back out. A-okay. Kill Cam Kenny picked up one of the 2 defensive items we talked about, Goremizer, that Leviathan's Hide. An important item when you're going up against 2 or 3 auto attackers. And then the hide of the Nemean Lion in there for Lord Garfield as well. This one nice and simple. You get hit with basic attacks, you're reflecting back some damage, and then, or maybe I got it backwards. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. This one reflects back the damage. Leviathan Tide loses a little bit of strength for the opponents that are attacking you. Figured we'd see one or the other. We end up getting both here. It's painful for Gotei 5 to auto-attack those tanks. Working in the waters. Now is Moods, but look at the health bar shrinking for Gotei 5. This game was close for the longest time, and it's not close for much longer, Goremizer. Garf's Goblins, I think, might just shove this one right down mid and take things here in Game 3 unless Joshy can somehow make the miracle play. It's an airstrike in mid. Maybe this one just to distract Garf's Goblins, pull them out of the base a little bit. But instead now you're separated. Bruz left alone beneath your Titan with 4. Now Joshy's just not going to have anything to say about it. Bruz, a little bit of damage. Yeah, you get the stun on the Eagles rally, but how about it for Garf's Goblins? Into the playoffs they go with a big win here in Game 3.
And I gotta give the last light of credit over towards Joshy, because the idea behind the play, go mid, clear the minion wave, try to make it so Garf's Goblins can't just walk into the Titan room, that's a good spot. The downside is Garf's Goblins were just on top of everything, right? The rotation, catch him out. Amma can then just spend the rest of the game doing exactly what they did, which is stopping the back so Joshy can't defend, can't find the crit, can't get too much done. And instead you get to watch, again, as they just march forward. The damage was really solid. They get a lot of early fights, and I feel like what we get to see is a more concise version of what Game 1 was meant to be from Garf's Goblins. Garf's Goblins started Game 1 off incredibly well, but then just kind of slipped up, and unfortunately they weren't able to get the Gold Fury. That very first Gold Fury, I think, is what keeps Gotei 5 in it. And instead you moved into this awkward spot where, oh, well, now they're behind in gold. Now it becomes a little more difficult just in general to find that huge fight. And then instead here you get exactly what you need and exactly what you're asking for. You get those Gold Furies. You get a couple of choice steals as well that just work out for you. And that just keeps the ball rolling. It feels like Gotei 5, anytime there was a dice roll, they lost it.
They sure did. I think I admire. I'm thinking of some takeaways here as we move to playoffs. Things I want to note in my brain for the teams that we're looking forward to next weekend, and sort of the way the teams are trending. I think Garf's Goblins has been a team we've kept our eye on from early on in the SMITE 2 Founder Series, and I believe we're going to talk to Dest here in just a moment. And a question that I want to ask them is, do you think you're playing like your best Smite at the right time? Because that's so much of it, right? Where you start off the year and you're trying to figure it out, but like ultimately, if you feel like you're starting to put things together at the right time, that's what's most important on your way into playoffs. And so that's what I look for with this Garf's Goblins team, where you had a sort of a turnaround win in the first win of the set for them, and then this one, it's really close, and you end up blowing the doors off the thing. Speaking of Dest, it's another New Wa game. Puts up decent KDA, but really this one, Gore, I think flows through the Loki and the initiation from Lord Garfield. Yeah,
there are a lot of moments. It's actually really interesting because I feel like it was backwards from what I expected, or at least backwards from how some of the earlier moments went for this the entire team, where Dest, like the biggest impact this game happened more early on, and like you said, kind of flowed and facilitated the rest of the squad, versus what we actually ended up seeing, in some of the other games where I feel like Dest was more or less one of the driving factors of this one. It was much more of an unseen hand, but the burst damage was always there, and that was the thing. And because the comp for Gotei 5 was squishier, all you needed was like one minion explosion in the right spot, and then it's just to shreds, right? A drunk diplomat can walk forward, Sunprod can walk forward, Garfield can walk forward, like anybody else can march in and go, oh, cool, free kills. Like, this is exactly what the setup was meant for, and that's what you were able to do on the Amma, the New Wa. A lot of really good damage, really good DPS, and then again,
Wow.
this time facilitating everybody that's around you.
Heck of a game from Lord Garfield. 4-2-4, but also top damage in the game by about 3,000 over a Nuwa. And you're sending out those ultimates on Nuwa. No surprise, you're towards the top of the damage charts. Lord Garfield, not only top damage taken on their team and top damage mitigated as you'd expect, but Chalk was just so disruptive. And how annoying, when you talk about just feel, the Chalk ultimate just feels so bad. When you get hit by it, just the knock up and the silence feel like they just last forever. And so you got to make good use of that. And I loved what I saw out of Lord Garfield here in this game. And there's certainly a takeaway, Gore, I think, here for Garf's Goblins and maybe for other teams. Dest very clean on this new 3 games in a row. Obviously 2 wins, 1 loss. Could be something where if teams are trying to disrupt things in picks and bans, and I don't know if I'm saying Nuwa was like the reason in the two wins. It was certainly a clean pick, and it's an opportunity to maybe force the Garf's Goblins team to change things up. But it's also sort of it feels bad to ban a Nuwa with how much good stuff there is in the game right now, and so I like what I see from Garf's Goblins and some of the consistency on those types of picks.
I do also appreciate, I think, the element that a Nuwa brings. I feel like she's got a decent amount of burst damage that can kind of catch you off guard, but really does facilitate it. And the biggest thing that's easy to overlook with a Nuwa more than anything in a comp game like this, because you can joke about the ult, haha, it brings in a ton of damage, but one of the biggest things is the fact that it reveals everybody. That is huge for your team, and really does kind of kick things off in so many ways.
Well, as you mentioned, Gore, we're going to talk to the mid laner for Garf's Goblins here. Dest is in our chat with us here. We're going to have them on audio. Can you hear us loud and clear?
I can absolutely hear you, Dolson.
Great.
How you doing?
Right. Good. Fantastic. I'm sure you're doing well as well. Let me start off light with you here. Nuwa 3 games in a row. Do you just love the pick, or do you feel like your teammates force you into it a little bit?
Well, I wouldn't say my teammates forced me into it, but Nuwa does a lot of good things in a very safe manner. So That's why she is looked at by us.
Understood.
I'm kind of curious, and this is more thoughts on Gotei 5's draft in that last game, because it feels like it's something that maybe in the right moments could just absolutely roll over you guys, but you seem to handle it pretty fine. So what were your thoughts on game 3 and specifically like what Gotei 5 brought into it?
So they brought into like a bunch of like AA characters. So we were just like, they're probably gonna split push and like do kind of like early objectives and whatnot. But we really knew that we were gonna be the ones playing the early game better. So we basically just spam ganked the soul, got her behind, and then from there we just dealt with them invading and proceeded.
Yeah, tough for the soul for sure. Kind of final thoughts from you here, Dest. This game obviously qualifies you into playoffs. Ultimately, what's important here, and a lot of the teams early in SMITE 2 figuring out how the game works, putting the roster and the strategy together. Do you feel like Garf's Goblins are playing some of their best SMITE right now, moving into playoffs?
But yeah, Garf's Goblins are absolutely on the top of their game. That first game was an absolute fluke. The first Gold Fury was just unlucky. That's it's really just the enemy team getting lucky. We played the whole set realistically perfectly to our aspects. So all the other teams, when they watch the VOD back and they see how everything went down, they can say, yeah, that's Garf's Goblin at their peak in those all 3 games, even the one that we lost. It was just an absolute miracle that they even took that one. So yeah,
that's right. You gotta give them one, lull them into a false sense of security.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweep them in 2 straight.
We're just simply testing the waters, and they got lucky. No problem.
Understood. Well, we appreciate your time here. Excited to see what Garf's Goblins can get done in the playoffs.
I hope you guys caught me on the webcam. I'm streaming.
I see you here on our chat. I don't know if nickname did, but we appreciate you and best of luck in your future.
Well, Dolson, pleasure talking to you guys, and Gore as well. Have a good night, you two.
All right.
You too.
Later. What a pleasant conversation that was. Huh?
Yeah,
it was great talking to him. And Gore, some of it is joking around, but still some good confidence here from Garf's Goblins. And when it comes to winning these tournaments, confidence, even if it's false bravado, essential in maybe catching some other teams off guard.
Would I describe it as the best Smite that has ever been played? Probably not. But I do think like there is a lot of truth in what was said, right? And even if you look at game one, it is unlucky, right? You lose that first Fury, and it did feel like that set them kind of behind. They played really well, but a lot of the objective play was what ended up being a lot of trouble for them in game one. And then game twos and three, or games 2 and 3, they ended up cleaning that style of play up. Like they made sure that wasn't what was going to happen.
Yep.
The objective play got a lot cleaner from them. The drafts, I think, got a little cleaner from them. And then the execution in that early game. I mean, even in the last one where they said, hey, we know we're going to play the early game better. And the idea was to just spam gank Soul on repeat. Like that's going to work out well for you, especially when a team has a draft that is so heavily built on its auto attackers, built on its capabilities to try and shred through your health bar in like that mid to late game.
Yep.
And then they itemized well against it as well. You kind of pointed it out, but like getting a hide at Anemian is really, really good in that scenario more than anything. So I think they just, as a team, like they adjusted properly, which as we get to, these areas where best of threes, like you said, and a lot more pressure is on there. Yes, it's going to be some double elims, but like you still have to make things work. Being able to adjust mid set and make those changes on the fly is a huge deal and a good sign for the team.
And Gore, I'm going to simplify it. Seems like a team that's having some fun. That post-game interview, it shows a team that's having a good time.
Yeah.
Clearly things are great when you're winning, and we'll see Garf's Goblins in the playoffs. Not over, though, as we take a look at our bracket. It's not over. For the flip side, Gotei 5 will be playing up against Content Team 6. That one in Group A. Winner goes on, loser goes home. Unlucky here for the SMITE 2 Founder Series if you're on the losing end of any of these final matchups. So we're in the last chance qualifiers. These games are the last chance qualifiers when you're looking down things over the course of the rest of this weekend. So we'll get a peek, whether it's on broadcast or off. We'll let you know what happens there between Gotei 5 and Content Team 6. We got the two teams with numbers in their names, I guess. 6 greater than 5? Question mark? Maybe. We'll find out. The next one we're going to get to watch, though, Gore, over in Group B. That'll be Father's Day versus Alec Hate Club. I believe, unless Yummers took that set too. We'll find out, though. But Alec Hate Club for sure in the finals there. But Gore, as things shake out here in North America, we start to get down to the wire and the weight starts to build up a little bit. And we're starting to get to the most critical, high impact games that we've had, so far up to this point.
Oh, yeah.
Swiss stage, there's been, you promote. Technically, you're out of the Swiss stage, but you have the last chance qualifiers. We are officially in what's the big brother of make or break is do or die. We're officially in those do or die matchups as we get towards the end of this weekend.
Yeah, what I think is great is if you qualify, like your do or die goes back to make or break because you've got that double elim, but then it becomes do or die again. Like it does shift. But like you said, right now, and for a lot of these players as well, this is like the most important set and most important games they've ever played in SMITE, right? It is the moment where, hey, you're shot at making it to Vegas. Like, it could end today. For some teams, it will end today.
Yep. Sad to think about, but exciting to think about from our perspective. Still some more great SMITE to watch. One more best of 3 here in North America. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more SMITE 2 Founder Series.